like a group or follow a Twitterer. You know, it really takes gumption and putting your personal safety at risk to go on the street and face those brutal police. I remember in 2008, on April 6th, there was no one on the streets. People were scared to go out of the streets, and that's why it started as a call for people to stay home. And this is fundamentally different, and I think that's where the true power is being shown, is that people from broad swaths of society are on the streets protesting and demanding their freedoms.
So, Mohammed, from your perspective then, and from what you've been seeing of what's going on in Egypt, how crucial are the social media sites in terms of mobilising and utilising the technology to enthuse the masses?
Actually, I differentiate between the social media role to call people to go to the street and the social media role to cover what's going on and provide information in real time, second by second, and pictures. And if we want to be a little bit fair, we have to realize that the number of the protesters significantly increased from tens of thousands to millions during the 5 days where the government cut off the internet and disabled the SMS services. And that's another evidence that social media did not bring those people together to the street. Social media played a very, very crucial role, and it was a very powerful and tremendous tool and power to send the information and the news about what's going on now in the street, and the updates, most recent updates about what's going in the protest in Tahrir Square, and that again, that did not give the people the political motivation. And again, when the Egyptian people called the Egyptian to go to the street to protect the National Museum. They did that during the day when the government cut off the internet, and people heard that call and they went to the street and tried to protect. It's the crowd source, or using the crowd power, is very, very tremendous power, and people are using that in a very effective way to send information and the news, but it did not really, it doesn't really the reason to bring people to the street.
Okay, Gillian, let me bring you in here, because you were nodding to both what Courtney had to say and what Mohammed had to say. I didn't want to interrupt them while they were speaking, but I'd like to hear your point of view.
Sure. Well, you know, I think Courtney touched on this a little bit, but much of the U.S. media in the past couple of weeks has been coming out with headlines like "Social media gives Egyptians a voice," and I find that particularly almost offensive. When you look at what's really happening, it's not giving people a voice. It's certainly allowing them, as Mohammed mentioned, to broadcast what's happening in Tahrir Square and elsewhere, and it's certainly in Tunisia as well. Certainly helped people to get information out of the country during a crucial time, but I think that a lot of the Western obsession with this is, sort of misguided. I think that, it ignores the reality of what's happening on the ground, the tear gas, the deaths. Social media, isn't what gets people out. And like Mohammed mentioned, when the internet was shut off, a lot more people took to the streets. And I've read a couple of different blogs from within Egypt of people who said, okay, the internet's off now. What else can I do? I'm going to leave the house. And I think that that's something that we should be looking at too.
But Mohammed, can I bring you in here then to what Gillian's just said, is the fact that a lot of Egyptians, the large majority, live on less than $2 a day. Their access to such technology would be limited, and therefore it has to be said, how do the masses, how do they get their information? Because if state television is only running certain types of images and the internet is closed down, somebody's getting the word out.
That's clear. When the government cut off the internet, people start using SMS services to spread the word about what's going on. And when the government disabled the SMS services, people start calling each other, and then eventually, finally, they went to the street to talk to each other. That's another evidence that it's not a social media, it's not Facebook and Twitter, because merely people looking for a way to communicate easily and spread the word about their work. And yesterday, we've seen people talk via the radio more than before, not in social media or Facebook or Twitter. And I agree with Gillian. It's very unfair to say social networking gives people voices in Egypt, because it helped people to cover the story, to bring more information, and because the events is in different locations, and it's very hard to cover those stories. Even credible media and international media organizations relied heavily in those people and take their information. But again, this is it's kind of citizen journalism, but it's most of the people in the same time who's posting this information. They're posting this information from activism perspective rather than being a citizen journalism. They're using this information to mobilize, not to cover the story, to encourage people to go to the street, not to deliver the information only.
OK, well, we're talking about social media, and one of the issues that has really ignited Facebook users in the Middle East is the controversy surrounding this man, Tamir Husni. He's a popular Egyptian singer in the region. Here's what he told Egyptian television on Tuesday.
Mubarak in power for 30 years means he has the experience. He knows how to keep the country going. 30 years of security. He has been able to crush terrorism. Sina and Taba, all those places are now safe. Why should there be a problem when your father sometimes overlooks you? You are many. Sometimes a father gets his own children's name wrong. A father with 3 or 4 kids can make them up. What's the problem? You are 80 million, 90 million people. Things like this will happen.
Well, it's a statement that he later retracted.
I want to die today. I'm not angry with the protesters. They misunderstood that. They told me go and save the country. I thought I was saving the people. I came to tell them I'm not angry with them and that I had misunderstood things.
Well, he's not the only musician to express his political opinion. Arab-American hip-hop artist Omar Effendum is also with us here in Doha. Thanks very much for joining us. You've obviously penned a song which has become unofficially the anthem for what's been going on in Egypt. I mean, why are you getting involved? You're not even Egyptian.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Okay.
I appreciate the introduction, but I respectfully disagree. I can't be credited with creating the Song of the Revolution. The Egyptian people themselves have been making incredible music in Tahrir Square, in Alexandria, in Suez, just chanting on the streets and coming up with things on the fly to express themselves. And that is the real music of this revolution, in my opinion. What we did was create a song of solidarity with the Egyptian people. A number of artists from the United States and Canada who came together in essence, just to kind of show, like I said, our solidarity and create a dedication to the Egyptian people and their results.
And at what stage then, Omar, at what stage did you decide that you had to get involved?
Well, obviously, you know, this is a relatively recent situation, and so it happened over the past couple of weeks. Put the song together with some artists who are from all over the US and Canada, and so it happened online, you know. Basically sending the files that we'd recorded from Montreal, from Philadelphia, from Atlanta to our studio in Los Angeles and recording and mixing it and then putting it out online. And subsequently, you know, it's received over the past 2 days almost 40,000 hits on YouTube.
So can I ask then, because this relates to what Gillian said just a few moments ago, were you influenced by the images you saw on television screens, or were you influenced by tweets or Facebook?
Well, something I said in an interview here on Al Jazeera yesterday was that, you know, I was very much influenced by what I was seeing on Al Jazeera English, which I was watching online, and what I was reading on tweets, but also from what I was hearing from my friends and my family in Egypt who, you know, I've been in contact with and I've been getting stories from directly. And so, you know, all those things, the combination of all those things, then also the history that I have, the understanding of the culture and what was happening there, you know, obviously shapes the way that I view what's happening now.
So Gillian, therefore I come back to you in Boston and what you just said earlier about the fact that we may be giving too much credit to the social networks, but they are a very important tool nonetheless.
Definitely, and I think, you know, what Omar just said, that it was a mix of all of those things, that it was television, it was the photos, the images, the tweets, all of it together is certainly a compelling story and a compelling narrative. And, you know, it's funny because Omar's song has actually been all over my Facebook pages in the past couple of days from people that I didn't even know were paying attention.
Well, let me come then to Courtney, because people have been paying attention, and they paid attention especially in Egypt when the government cut the internet off, and there were very inventive ways of getting round it. How surprised were you by the way people circumvented the problems that they were facing?
I have to say I'm not that surprised at how the people circumvented it. I think that we've seen companies like Facebook and Google are willing to help find workaround solutions, and that the digital activists in Egypt are very good at publicizing information and getting information about how to avoid censorship or bypass that. What I was surprised by was the Egyptian government's decision to completely shut off the internet and mobile phones. That had a huge economic cost associated with it, and frankly, I didn't think that they really had the capacity to do that. But I do want to address this idea that I think we're perhaps, by trying to avoid the utopianism of social media, we're actually not giving enough credit to it in terms of it did help provide a voice to the Egyptian people in a media environment where you have the vast majority of television stations are state-owned. You have newspapers that are state-owned, as well as clearly defined along opposition party lines. Yes, you do have somewhat of an independent media, but ordinary people, and especially young people, have pretty limited access to mainstream media and to presenting their views. So actually blogs and Facebook and Twitter, but especially, you know, blogs and these self-publishing tools have been really important to give Egyptians and especially the youth a voice and to let them bypass the stranglehold of mainstream media on the news agenda. So I don't think we should discount the role.
So, didn't mean to interrupt you there, Courtney. It's just that Mohammed shaking his head in disagreement. I just wanted to know why.
Yeah, I can kind of disagree on that, because the social media did not provide a voice to the Egyptian. It helped them to spread their information and their news in the first place. And the social networking playing a role, it's an important role, of course, but it's merely the role of the secret publication have done during the Soviet era. The nice thing about the social networking, it's easy, friendly, accessible, and it's international, cross-boarding, and it's multilingual, and that's make it very, very friendly user and more benefits. And if we can ask, since the idea is the social networking, why the government did not use the social networking in response in the activities and the protesters? Because it's not the social networking problem, or it's not about social networking. Again, the social networking played a key role. I don't don't give them any credit or zero credit. Of course, we give them a credit, but it's not give them too much credit, because using the crowdsource again in covering what's going on, and citizen journalism is a very important thing, and it's very tremendous power, but it's not giving the Egyptians the voice.
Gillian, can I bring you in here? Because